It is Wednesday, July 22, 2026. The State Department confirms a $2.5 billion U.S. investment pledge across Southeast Asia. The White House signs a new executive order on defense supply chains, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports the sharpest monthly price drop in 6 years. Here are the day's top stories. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced the United States will provide $2.5 billion in strategic investments across Southeast Asia. The announcement, confirmed by the State Department's Office of the Spokesperson, came during the ASEAN Post-Ministerial Conference with the United States in Manila, part of Rubio's 5-day trip covering meetings with ASEAN foreign ministers and the East Asia Summit from July 19th through the 23rd. The visit is the latest step in a broader U.S. push to deepen its comprehensive partnership with the Philippines and the wider Indo-Pacific region. State Department officials say the trip advances a free and open Indo-Pacific, delivering security and prosperity for the region. Rubio also held direct talks with Philippine President Marcos on the sidelines of the meetings, and separately joined the East Asia Summit Foreign Ministers meeting and the ASEAN Regional Forum during the 5-day stop in Manila. Why it matters? The pledge signals Washington's effort to counterbalance regional economic influence in Southeast Asia through direct financial commitment, reinforcing alliances at a moment of heightened Indo-Pacific competition and shifting regional trade dynamics. President Trump signed an executive order aimed at securing America's defense supply chains and ensuring domestic acquisition of critical materials. According to the White House, the order is designed to guarantee reliable access to equipment and materials essential to national defense, and was signed and published this week on the administration's Presidential Actions page. The administration states the action supports what it calls the continued military dominance of U.S. forces and directs federal agencies to prioritize domestic acquisition pathways for materials the Pentagon deems essential. The order was signed the same week the President proclaimed July 19th through 25th as Made in America Week. Both actions were published on the White House's official Presidential Actions page. Why it matters. Tying defense materials sourcing to domestic manufacturing reflects a policy push to reduce reliance on foreign suppliers for materials the Pentagon considers strategically critical. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports the Consumer Price Index fell 0.4% in June on a seasonally adjusted basis. The BLS says this followed a 0.5% increase in May and marks the largest one-month decrease in the All Items Index since April 2020, when prices fell 0.8% amid the early pandemic downturn. The report covers price data collected through June 2026 across the full range of consumer goods and services tracked by the agency, including food, energy, and shelter costs nationwide. The Producer Price Index for the same month was released the following day by the same agency. Both releases are part of the BLS's standard monthly economic reporting schedule following the June employment report that showed the unemployment rate holding at 4.2%. Why it matters. A sharp monthly price decline of this size, the largest since the pandemic-era plunge, raises questions for policymakers weighing future interest rate decisions against inflation trends and household purchasing power. The World Health Organization reports that global road traffic deaths fell 21% over the past decade. The finding comes from a WHO news release tracking progress toward international road safety targets set under the United Nations Decade of Action framework. The organization states that despite the decline, stronger action is still needed to further reduce fatalities worldwide. WHO's release ties the improvement to expanded safety regulations, vehicle safety standards, and infrastructure investment reported by member states over the past 10 years. The findings were published this week as part of WHO's ongoing global health monitoring efforts, alongside separate reporting on global hunger levels easing for a third consecutive year. Why it matters? The drop marks measurable global progress on a leading cause of death for young people, though WHO's own language signals the gains remain fragile without continued investment. President Trump proclaimed July 19th through 25th, 2026, as Made in America Week, citing new domestic manufacturing job growth. The White House proclamation credits the Working Families Tax Cuts Act and regulatory reform for the shift, framing it as evidence of a broader industrial turnaround. The proclamation states American manufacturing added jobs for the first time in 3 years. The White House frames the week as the start of what it calls a new golden age of American industrial capacity, citing the Working Families Tax Cuts Act as a driver of the shift. The proclamation was issued alongside the administration's Defense Supply Chain Executive Order this same week and calls on Americans to observe the week with appropriate ceremonies and activities. Why it matters: pairing a manufacturing proclamation with a defense sourcing order underscores the administration's stated strategy of linking industrial policy directly to national security goals and long-term economic resilience. Like and subscribe for fact-based news from official government sources only. Leave a comment. Tell us what stories you want to hear.